Hello and welcome. I'm Rossi Sanchez, and this is Mindful Evenings. Mindful Evenings is, in the words of one of my followers, not just another meditation thing. It's a bit of science, emotional intelligence, and a bit of story peppered with my unique sense of humor. Every month, we'll take a light but deep dive into common behaviors and relationship issues and use the power of focus to tap into who we truly are so we can start understanding, appreciating, and loving ourselves and those around us more and creating the life we came here to live. Thank you for being here tonight to uncover a bit more about yourself in Words Matter, especially the ones we tell ourselves. The sequence will be as follows. I'm going to share a personal story, take you through some learnings and a journaling exercise, and then a guided meditation. And finally, there will be open sharing if desired. To start, I want to invite you to get comfortable and relax. We're going to breathe. If you're seated, place your feet on the floor, roll your shoulders back, let out your belly, place your hands on your lap, open to the sky, and close your eyes. And let's take 3 deep and satisfying breaths. Breathe in for a count of 4. Breathe out for a count of 8. One more time. And again. Okay. You can open your eyes now. Let me ask you something. What words have you been feeding yourself lately? Food is not the only thing that can prolong our life and keep us healthy and active, or shorten it by making us sick and immobile. Words, thoughts, and beliefs also fuel our mind and body. They can catapult us to great heights, or they can keep us stuck in self-deprecation and misery, watching us through a window, who we want to be and the life we want to have, but don't allow ourselves to be or have it. I was born in Cuba and came to the US at the age of 6, aboard a plane, by the way. I was a smart kid, did great in school, and aspired to be a psychologist, live in a monastery in India, and travel around what used to be called the USSR, none of which I've done. I have traveled around the US, Europe, Asia, South America, and the Caribbean quite a bit. I lived in Italy for 3 years. I have degrees in liberal arts and English, and had a successful career as an advertising copywriter for many years. I've been married 3 times, and I'm a mom to a smart, handsome, and goofy young man who I adore. I also have a select group of loyal and devoted friends who I truly cherish. But if you were to ask me what kinds of conversations I was having with myself while most of this was going on, I'd have to tell you that most of them revolved around my weight. What? You're probably saying, what does that have to do with anything? Everything. I saw everything, did everything, experienced everything through my perception of my body. Even in the midst of wonderful conversations with friends, while traversing a foreign country or falling in love, I would be pinching my love handles more or less inconspicuously, reminding myself of how I wasn't worthy of enough because I carried an extra 20 or 30 pounds I just couldn't shake. When I look back on my life, I tend to remember moments by how I looked back then physically. I recall the clothes I wore, which lets me know how heavy or thin I was, and therefore how happy or miserable I was. What a waste of a wonderful life of wonderful moments. Wouldn't you agree? It's truly miraculous that I was able to be successful at anything at all. I guess I did stop ruminating about my weight every now and again, long enough to focus on things that truly mattered. And finally, in my late 40s, I had an epiphany. I was out jogging one afternoon with my last ex husband when a group of boys walked by, pointed at me, and muttered, "She's beefed." I had no idea what that meant at the time. I thought it meant I was cut since I had been eating healthy and going to the gym regularly. However, when my ex explained the meaning of beefed, I was crushed. It meant I had like muscle on fat, huge arms. The next day, I did something I don't know I had ever really done before. I stared at myself in the mirror. Now, of course, I had looked at myself in the mirror many times before, but I don't know that I ever stared into my own eyes. Have you? That felt very awkward. It was hard to sustain my own gaze. It took a lot of courage, but I forced myself to do it. And I said to the eyes in the mirror, "You know what, girl? You're going to the gym 6 days a week. You're putting in the work. If this is it, so be it." And as painful as that was, I meant it. I really meant it. And suddenly there was this great relief. Suddenly it felt like I didn't have to be anything I already wasn't, that I was perfectly fine just the way I was. I winked at the cutie in the mirror and threw myself a kiss. And that was the moment everything started to change. Because while I didn't change my gym routine or my nutrition, I did continue to stare and wink at myself every morning. And after a while, I started dropping the pounds. Had I not gotten to the point where I basically gave up beating up on myself and just accepted myself the way I was, I'd still be seeing the world through a few extra pounds and missing out on the amazing beauty that is all around us. I know I wouldn't be here confidently relating a very personal story because I wouldn't have allowed myself to be my full potential, to explore way outside that constricted cocoon I had created for myself, which consisted of misguided self perceptions, limiting beliefs, disappointments in myself, shame, nasty little words like fat, ugly, unworthy, lacking self control, etc. How we talk about our disappointments and challenges will flavor how we will experience them. I walk through life seeing everything through the veil of not pretty enough, not thin enough, not lovable enough, not desirable enough. I compared myself with other women, wanted to look like them, wanted to wear what they were wearing, but thought it would look ridiculous on me. Although chances are, I could have probably pulled it off pretty well. I also walked around hiding the acne scars on my face, neck, and arms, of which I was ashamed. I would tell myself that no one else had scars like mine. I can never wear a dress with cleavage or bare arms or chest. Not that I would go bare chested anywhere, but I mean, doesn't everyone else have soft, flawless skin? I'm the only person in this world with these kind of scars. That was my internal chatter. And in fact, one of the ways we beat up on ourselves is by thinking that we're alone in our situation, that no one else has gone through or is going through something similar, that we're uniquely flawed. And while each of us is indeed unique, imperfection is something we all share, thankfully. Making mistakes is a common human trait, and failures, in my opinion, are just stepping stones to success. Even Einstein agreed with me. In his own words, success is failure in progress. And what about the mess ups, the mistakes that turned out to revolutionize the world? Champagne, matches, chewing gum. Viagra. All these started out as mistakes or were experiments gone bad. Think about that. But how many of us succumb to failure or imperfection or shame and give up on our dreams because we think we're uniquely flawed? And that's the end of that. How dare little old me attempt to launch a business? Who am I to write a bestseller? What was I thinking going in front of those investors with this dumb idea? How can I even imagine making the world a better place if I can't even make my own bed? I'm lazy, I'm weak, I lack structure. I can't manage my time. I get tongue-tied in front of groups. I'm worthless. What we focus on grows stronger. These words can create pathways in our brains if we practice and believe them long enough. And once they do, they become part of who we are. According to Kristen Neff, a self-compassionate guru, self-compassion is coming to terms with the fact that you may still fail, struggle, you may not have it all together, you may not like what you look like or what you did, but you're compassionate with wherever you are. It's being able to tell yourself, hey, this is hard. This hurts. Or in my case, accepting that if this is it, so be it. It's also realizing that we're not alone in our struggle. That while not many people I knew growing up had acne scars on their chest, there were a heck of a lot of people who had other physical blemishes that they dealt with and possibly suffered for much more than I did for mine, which were just artificial. Maybe they were missing a limb or an organ. It doesn't have to be tit for tat. We all have something that we'd rather not have, or have done something that we'd rather not have done. No one's immune. We all have the humanity virus in us. And that's a great thing because when we're driven and have a deep desire to go beyond, to do more, to elevate ourselves and others, when we allow this creative power to fully express itself, it can be truly revolutionary. So, how can we talk ourselves into being great? We have to start by being mindful. I knew you'd sneak that little word in there somewhere, you're probably saying. Mindfulness is the foundation of self compassion because it is the ability to be aware of what's going on around you, but with an attitude of curiosity and kindness and without judgment, like an observer. It's like stepping away from the situation, creating a bit of space where you can observe yourself, your thought patterns, and the way your mind works. When we're able to step back and see our situation for the thing that it is, and we can observe how we think and feel, and start to see how much control we really wield over our thoughts, we start to get familiar with the emotions that keep us beating up on ourselves. And we can start to release them. Because it's when we're in pain, when things aren't going our way, when we feel out of control or threatened, that we try to make up for that lack of control by exerting undue control on ourselves. And the way we do that is by being self-critical. Had I done more? Had I worked harder? Had I washed my face 10 times a day? I would have been perfect. Becoming aware of how we're treating ourselves in the act of trying to protect ourselves from the uncontrollable mess we're in allows us to let down our guard and start to see things for what they are. And suddenly, they may not be so threatening or so uncontrollable. And even if they are, by allowing ourselves to step back and observe things, we're no longer that emotionally vested in the situation. It's a simple act. You can be inside and outside at the same time. You can't be wallowing in it and observing it from the outside. You can't do both. So I ask you, where would you rather be? After we become aware of how our mind is thinking and how we're reacting and what's actually happening, we can then start to spread a little kindness to ourselves. I recently listened to Sir Paul Richard. He's a British chap, a clinical psychologist and founder of compassion focused therapy and compassionate mind training. And he is a hoot. I highly recommend you look him up. And he defines compassion as a sensitivity to the suffering and distress of self and others with a deep commitment to try to relieve it or prevent it. Again, compassion is a sensitivity to the suffering and distress of self and others with a deep commitment to try to relieve or prevent it. So, how can we commit to relieving our own suffering or distress? His formula: don't blame yourself for what's happening, but take responsibility. As he very eloquently put it, we shit, but that doesn't make us shitty. Think about it. How often do we identify with the mess or the failure? We put it on, we wear it, it becomes our ID badge. But instead of owning our situation, we need to become aware of it and commit to rectifying it. He gave an example. Imagine if you're given a car, someone's really nice to you, and they give you a car, but you don't know how to drive. Are you just going to get in it and somehow figure out how to turn it on and go, only to crash the first chance you get? Or are you going to become aware of the fact that this is a powerful machine that can set you free in many ways? But in order for you to really take advantage of it, you need to learn to drive it first. You don't just want to sit in that car and cry because you can't go anywhere. You make the intention and the commitment to acquire the skills you need in order to drive it. So, whether it's a physical attribute we dislike in ourselves, or the fact that we failed at something or did something we're ashamed of, rather than turn away from these parts of ourselves, ignoring them because they're too painful to look at, we need to acknowledge them, embrace them, comfort them in order to start healing. It's as if a 5-year-old riding a bike down a gravel road loses control and falls off his bike and comes crying to you for comfort. And instead of hugging him and letting him know he's going to be okay, you berate him for being so dumb as to have gone down that road, falling off and scraping his knee, which you now have to tend to. Well, most of us, parents or not, would never dream of acting that way toward a child. We sometimes act exactly this way towards ourselves. So, how do we stop this personal verbal abuse? One, we start by realizing that we're all connected and share a common humanity, and that thankfully, we're all imperfect and make mistakes. Two, we start to see things for what they are, stepping away from the situation and observing it and our thoughts and our feelings from a place of curiosity and non-judgment. And third, we shower ourselves with kindness, the same kindness we would express to our friends and loved ones. I know this is easier said than done, believe me, especially when we've practiced being verbally abusive to ourselves for such a long time that it's become a habit. There are pathways built into our brains to accommodate it. But right now, we're going to start practicing something altogether different, something that, if you continue to do it, can create different habits different pathways in your brain for self-compassion. So this is where you pull off the road, Tim, and you grab your pen and paper. We're going to journal. Now, I want you to think about something you beat yourself up for. Choose something small. And for the next 30 seconds, I want you to write down what that is and some of the words you use to criticize yourself for this perceived disappointment or failure. So something you beat yourself up for and the words that you use. Okay, I gave you a minute. I think you guys were going strong. Now imagine that you're writing a letter to your best friend or mentor, someone who knows you, understands you, and cares for you. And you're telling him or her about your challenge or disappointment and how you're feeling about it. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that. Okay. Now, for the next 2 minutes, you are going to put yourself in the place of your friend or mentor, and you're going to reply to your letter. So you're going to make believe that you got your letter stating your difficulty, your challenge, whatever it is you're beating yourself up for. and this person has responded to you. So write yourself a letter from their point of view. They're replying to your letter. So think about what they would say, and more importantly, what words they would use, what tone they would use. And also think about how their letter would make you feel. Okay, now let's put our pen and paper down and let's get ready to do a mindfulness exercise. So get comfortable. Again, if you're seated, place your feet on the floor, roll your shoulders back, place your hands on your lap, palms facing to the sky, and let your belly come out to play. Close your eyes and inhale deeply for a count of 4. Exhale for a count of 8. Let's do that again. Breathe in for a count of 4. Breathe out for a count of 8. And one more time. Now start to breathe normally again and just observe your breath. You're not trying to control your breath. You're just watching the natural process as it happens. Now we're going to do something a little different. We're going to do a vagal stimulation. So still with your eyes closed, you've probably all heard of the fight or flight response, which gets your body ready to react to any perceived threat. The vagus nerve activates our parasympathetic nervous system, which is, as opposed to the fight or flight response, is our rest and digest response. So the vagus nerve decreases our heart rate, lowers our blood pressure, relaxes our major muscles, and quiets our digestive system. And in this exercise, we're going to stimulate the vagus nerve. So you're going to start by opening up your chest, and we're going to do a 5 in, 5 out breathing for a minute. What I mean is you're going to breathe in for a count of 5 and breathe out for a count of 5. And as you breathe in for a count of 5, you're going to tell yourself mentally, my mind is slowing down. And as you breathe out for a count of 5, you're going to tell your body, you're going to tell yourself, my body's slowing down. So breathe in for 5, mind slowing down. Breathe out for 5, body slowing down. After a while, you might start to feel how your body becomes very heavy, as if you were a tree or a mountain. You're grounded, strong, sturdy, unshakable. Breathe in, slowing down your mind. Breathe out, slowing down your body. Now, with your eyes still closed, for the next 15 seconds, you're going to place your face in a neutral position, meaning no emotion. Notice how that feels. And now, for the next 15 seconds, you're going to place your face in a friendly position. Imagine someone you like or love. Now 15 seconds of neutral face. And 15 seconds of friendly face. Now let's do the 5-5 exercise again. Breathe in for a count of 5, saying mentally, my mind is slowing down. And breathe out for a count of 5, saying mentally, my body is slowing down. Again, breathe in, mind slowing down. Breathe out, body slowing down. Again, feel how your body becomes heavy and grounded. Now we're going to play with voice tone, still with your eyes closed, whether out loud or in your head. You're going to greet yourself. First, you're going to do it in a neutral tone, like I would say, "Hello, Rossi." And then you're going to do it in a happy tone, like I would say, "Hello, Rossi," or whatever that is for you. So again, 15 seconds of neutral tone, greeting yourself. And now 15 seconds of happy tone. Switch back to 15 seconds of neutral tone. And 15 seconds of happy tone. Just be aware of how the change makes you feel. Now, recall the letter you wrote to yourself from the perspective of your best friend or mentor. Think of the kind words that were used, the compassionate tone of the letter, the love and well wishes your friend has for you. Now, if you can, imagine replacing your words with theirs, the words that you use to describe yourself and your situation. And for the next minute, imagine using your happy tone of voice to talk to yourself using those words and become aware of how that feels. Again, replace the words that you used initially to describe yourself with those of the person, your friend, your mentor, the person who wrote you the letter, and use your happy tone of voice to talk to yourself the way they would do it. And if you can, now imagine your friend hugging you and telling you that you're going to be okay. And now, either physically or mentally, if you can, hug yourself and tell yourself, whether out loud or mentally, that you're going to be okay. And you can repeat this as many times as you'd like. And as you do this, imagine a bright light emanating from your heart and spreading throughout your whole body. Imagine this light slowly expanding into the room you're in. It's a warm, loving light, a compassionate light, a light of total acceptance, of well being. For the next 3 minutes, sit in this light and just feel it. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. Welcome back, everybody. How was the ride? Okay, how was that vagal stimulation? You got to tell me. I did it this morning and I felt so heavy. It was just like I was going deep under the bed and just like I was so rooted.
The thing that's cool is that we can do that anytime we want.
Yeah.
Right? Any moment that we're feeling sort of stressed or overstimulated or, whatever, like we can do that ourselves.
Yeah, that's the beauty of it. Did the letter from your friend shed any light on how you could be kinder to yourself? Is that helpful? Huge difference, huh? Alfredo, you keep clicking on and off.
I think I Sarah.
Oh,
Where am I at? Okay, something like that.
there you are.
Microphone, let us answer. Yeah.
All right. I think I picked the wrong Fred because he was like, "Get your act together." Just
Yeah.
I was thinking about my friend, my good friend. He was like, "Man, just suck it up. Just you're better than that. Man up, level up, do this, do that." I was like, "Okay, I'm about to choose another friend next time."
I was afraid that would happen. It's like I made a huge assumption that you would call upon a really kind, uh, warm
Yeah,
friend. But I thought, what if that doesn't happen?
yeah. He's a good friend, but he means well. Just doesn't know how to say it sometimes. Pretty honest.
Were you still able to do the exercise? Were you?
Yeah, I was. Um, I was able to do it. So I just did it from the standpoint of myself, speaking to myself. What would I say? So
I think my friend lost patience with me because I failed to exercise discipline, and time again, I complain. I become angry when I lose discipline. So basically, my friend tells me that, you know what? When are you going to learn?
Okay, you guys need new friends.
Or will you ever learn?
Oh, that's hilarious. So did you get anything out of the exercise?
No, one thing I do, I'm going to share, with others as well, because, and it's very true. And I hadn't thought of it before you mentioned it, that the things that we put so much energy on, or we think about so much, we put so much energy in it, because oftentimes I'm thinking that, you know what, I'm trying to be disciplined with my eating habits, do this, do that, do right, not do wrong. And the more I think of doing right, or put more focus and energy, seems somehow that the more I tend to fall short. I don't know.
And that's because you may be focused on that mentally, but deep down inside, what you're telling yourself is contrary to that. So you may say, yeah, I'm going to be much more disciplined. I'm going to be much more disciplined. I'm going to be eating. And then back here, it's like, yeah, right. Like, discipline like you always are. Come on, And so there's this disconnection from what you really want to put out, but then what you really believe and what you really feel, which is the key, is how you feel. Until you feel good about doing that. And maybe it's not about putting it in terms of I need more discipline, because that in itself is not something all that positive, right? Instead of being that disciplined, what is it that you want to do? I want to eat wonderful, yummy, healthy food. Okay, that's positive. That's something that you want to do. I want to get to my appointment on time. That's positive. I want to, whatever it is you want to put a structure around her, but having to do something, that in itself is not, very positive. So if you frame it differently, more in terms of what's really going to feel good. You know, I'm going to go take a wonderful walk around the park. You know, I'm going to build in a little more fitness into my day, whatever it is that you're trying to do. And just, you know, the end goal. You want to look at the end goal. What is it that's going to make you happy? And then, you know,
Yeah,
make
because
that
the
what you're
outcome,
thinking of.
you tend to beat up. I tend to beat up myself more so when I'm not able to exercise that discipline,
Exactly.
and then
I should
anger
be more
comes in.
disciplined. Right, exactly. Like the example that I gave. Yeah, I should be more disciplined. Why don't you try harder? You know? And then you escalate and you escalate. Next thing you know, it's like, let's go have a tub of ice cream because you know
Yeah, it's like this.
I
What
have
they
no
have.
control anyways.
The
Or whatever
idea,
it is.
the idea that you need to be disciplined already is proof of that there's something wrong.
Exactly.
And so if we just say, I'm just like whatever you said, I'm going to go have some yummy, good, healthy food, as opposed to I need to be disciplined, because that already implies that you're not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
used
it's
to tell
almost
myself
like
a lot. I'm sorry, go ahead.
it's like let's have that hippie mentality. Let's just be free.
Yes, exactly.
Nothing wrong
So
with that.
there's this term that I read about probably a year ago. It was when the pandemic first started. And it was this like article I read about it's called toxic positivity,
Mhm.
where it's actually not positivity, it's you're beating yourself up because you have this idea of like, hey, Charlene eats this, she exercises X amount of times a week, she eats X amount of water, and the day that you fall short of that, it's like the end of the world for you emotionally, and it's not healthy. It's not coming from a good place. So it's being okay, yes, holding yourself accountable so that you're not eating junk all the time, because that's not healthy. But on the moments that you don't do it, you know, going back to Ross's example, if I came and told you like, hey, Charlene, like I feel terrible because I ate a bunch of Oreos, what would you tell me? Like, it's okay, Karina, just eat healthy, right? But then you're being hard on yourself. So that's
I would
something.
say you might as well have cake too. I mean, just have all your calories today. Just pile them on
Finish
today,
it
and then
off.
tomorrow you can go back to your normal stuff. Yeah, we tend to do that, which is exactly what Kristen Neff was talking about, right? When we you no, I lost my train of thought. You do something, and then when you're trying to have control, you're trying to exert control over your situation. Say all of a sudden you can't exercise because something came up. So what do? Then you become more self-critical, right? Because you know I should be able to control everything and be able to still maintain my schedule regardless of what happens. No, that's just not possible, right? We have to go with the flow.
You know, I definitely agree with that discipline thing, and that I think we tend to focus on when we don't do all that we said we're going to do. Like, for example, I can eat well all during the day, drink my water, eat my meals, work out in the morning, but you leave some cookies at home or a pack of Oreos on the table and some ice cream, I'm gonna eat the whole thing. Okay, all of it is gone, and so now, and so I've done well all day, and then I fall. And this is not happening all the time, of course, but sometimes it happens. I'm not gonna lie, I love some sweets. And then when I do, I beat myself up over the idea of just that, instead of focus on the fact that all day I did well, worked out, ate pretty good.
That's the same thing you do.
Or, I'm trying to be more organized and not be so messy. My office, if you look at it now, if I scanned the room, you would be like, whoa, TD is a little messy. But it's not always like this. I mean, I try to organize it, but then I just get busy and let it go. And so
Good speaker.
that's
One of his masters, the best speaker.
was that?
No, I think it's Charlene. She was a She was not
Yeah.
on mute.
So anyway, I definitely identify with what everybody's saying about discipline.
Oh yeah, we definitely tend to focus on the negative as opposed, I think it's 3 to 1. We focus on the negative as opposed to something positive. I used to really berate myself for being not having good time management because I'm a creative, so I'm sometimes I'm a little flighty, and now I realize that instead of calling myself on those things, I just tell myself, now you're going to focus. You need to do this. Now you're going to focus. And like I think it was yesterday, the day before, I had 2 big projects that I was working on, and boy, I just really used I made the best use of the time, and I focused. And afterwards, it was like, you go. I felt so proud, and I didn't have to resort to calling myself names or anything. It was just like, you were so focused. I mean, look at everything you accomplished. You did both things, and this is great. How do you feel? And and so it was, so just changing the words a little bit and changing the approach and really celebrating the victories because they're not really that little. We have many more of those than we have the disappointments and failures. We just focus on the disappointments and failures. Alfredo, Maria, anything to add?
Uh, well, I agree. We tend to focus more on the negative things, but then at the end of the day, you recap what you did throughout the day. You know get the best of what you did. I mean, at the moment, yes, you may be a little harsh on yourself, but then, well, that's me personally. At the end of the day, I kind of meditate a little bit and you accomplish this and that compared to what you might have felt on, but just keep moving, one day at a time. You did great today. So at the end of the day, I do recognize that it was more of the positive and good things that happen than the negative, and that's a relief at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's a great way to go to sleep. On that positive note. It's yeah, because really there are so many good things that we do and so many wonderful things that happen. We just tend sometimes to focus on the not so good and blow them up. Wonderful humans that we are. Anyone else have anything to share? Hi, Lisa. So great to have you.
I can share briefly.
Sure.
I think the thing that I chose, it was kind of just like the first thing that came to mind. And then as you were, I mean, I didn't know where you were going with the exercise, but then when you said about, now write the letter and then now get a response. And it's funny because I have a friend, she's in my team, and she called me. We're supposed to have like a work one-on-one, just checking in on her, and it kind of became like a personal thing, and she opened up about some stuff, and it's like I was in the very exact same situation that she's on. I mean, timelines, like everything. And I just started like throwing all these good things at her, like, hey, no, you have this and you have that and you this and you're smart and you're gonna get through it and blah, and like, and then I got off, and then she's like, oh my God, because she was even crying and stuff. She's like, oh my God, I feel so much better. And I'm like, damn, I wish I would have told myself that 5 years ago when I went through it,
Yeah.
So it was actually like that literally happened to me. I was in that same situation, and 5 years ago I was like beating myself up about it, and then now there's someone in that same exact situation, and it's like from the outside it looks like, why would she blame herself? Why would she be so hard on herself? So I actually knew how she was feeling, and she's like, I don't think anyone understands me because they've never been in this situation. But I'm like, she's like, but you have, right? I'm like, yeah, I literally have been in that same exact situation. And I beat myself up just the way that you are, that anger. I'm like, and I didn't, I'm not the kind who will tell you like, oh, stop crying or don't be mad. And I'm like, no, if you want to be mad, be mad. If you want to insult yourself for just a little bit, and then
Yeah.
let it out, and then be more rational about like, okay, you're not really stupid for having made that decision, or you're not all those things you told you. But I'm like, you gotta let it flow, because I feel like sometimes those negative feelings are there for a reason, right? Biologically, we need to have that fear, we need to have that anger, that sadness, and if we're just denying it and like making them slip away, it's not a positive thing. So I was like, okay, be sad and give yourself a certain amount of time to be sad. But then that's when I threw all those good things at her, and it was like, you know, just being in that situation with it when the tables turn and it's outside looking in, it's so different.
Isn't that interesting? And yeah, emotions provide a lot of information. Emotions give us a lot of information. And if we, again, if we kind of step away from them a little bit and just observe them for what they are, we can glean some very good insights from them, you know? It's you actually can go back and see where a lot of this thought process started, and why, and how is that relevant to me now, and next thing you know, plop 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 plop, you know, it's like, oh, there's nothing really going on here, you know. This was all old stuff, there's nothing really going on. And it's god, it's such, it's so liberating. It really is truly liberating. So thank you guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you've gotten a little bit of fed yourself a little food for thought here tonight. It was wonderful to host you. Thank you so very much. And I have no idea what time I'm going to do this next month, but it'll be the third Wednesday of the month. So more to come. I'll have a different theme and hopefully different stories. So thank you again. Good night.
Night,
Have a
everybody.
wonderful evening.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you, Rossi. Good
Bye.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Rossi.
Bye-bye.